Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pinstriped Prospects podcast presented by Velocity Wings. My name is Tommy Romanelli, and I will be your host for episode 55 of our podcast. We have a lot of news to cover tonight. We have a great panel, so I'm just going to get right to it and introduce everybody. First up, we have Ricky Keeler. Ricky has been contributing a lot to our website, and doing a really great job. How are you doing tonight, Rick?
I'm doing good, Tommy. How are you?
Not bad. It's waiting for it to stop raining every single day. It's become the new normal, so hopefully we get some clear skies here. And then next we have Paul Pagnato III. How are you doing, Paul?
Doing great. Actually, rain stopped today. It was pretty nice by me. So unfortunately, the Yankees and the Nationals got postponed till June 18th, but looking forward to seeing them then.
Yeah, and Paul, you actually had an opportunity to be at that game. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, I actually got a chance to catch up with some of the guys during batting practice. Got a chance to go on the field, and it was pretty cool experience.
Any scoops you picked up for us, or what?
No scoops. Just had some fun and caught up with some guys.
All right, awesome, man, awesome. And finally, we have a newcomer to Pinstripe Prospects. He's an intern with the Trenton Thunder. It's Austin Petalillo. How you doing tonight, Austin?
I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty well.
Good. And happy to have all you guys, and I just want to get right to it. So recently, the Yankees promoted Clint Frasier, which was a move that I'm not sure we all saw coming. Obviously, Frasier has been killing it in the minors. When the Yankees went to Washington, they were going to face a couple lefties, so it kind of made sense for the Yankees to be able to bring up a right-handed bat. But I think what was even more surprising was that after the National Series was postponed, we all expected Frasier to go down back to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, but he ended up staying with Kansas City. And he got in the lineup last night, and he was 1 for 2. He had a double, and he walked twice. So, Paul, I'm going to start with you on this one. Do you think that Frasier could stick around long term?
I don't. I just don't see the roster space. To be frank, if you think about it, the Tommy Kahnle's coming back, so he was actually, as of Sunday, Frasier was sent down back to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and there's just no room, and it's going to become even more crowded this week when we get Greg Bird, and Brandon Drury has been described as a major league player, which I think he is, and he's down in AAA. So there's just too many. It's a numbers game. Too many players and so little spots. And I just think the way that they utilize the 12-man pitching staff is fantastic.
Yeah, and to piggyback what you said there, I mean, yes, Frasier was already sent back down, but do you think, though, that he should have a place on the team? I mean, considering how he has hit, how Gardner has hit, I know Hicks has picked it up in the last couple games, but do you think that he'd be more valuable to this team right now than rolling Hicks and Gardner out there in the same lineup every day?
No, I don't. I think Gardner is one of the leaders, veteran leaders, and he's not going anywhere. And Hicks, they believe in Hicks, and he's been somewhat inconsistent, but the potential is there. So I think you just need to keep running them out there, and you're going to get good results eventually.
And Ricky, I'm going to bring this to you next. So with that idea, with Aaron Hicks being that player that the Yankees feel could be that 5-tool potential, at this point, I mean, he's shown flashes of it where he can really just break out and be that player that you see that they think he can be. But long term, do you think he could be center fielder, even until Florial is ready?
For this season, I think so, because you look at both Hicks and Gardner, while their batting averages might not be great, I think both of them do a great job of working the count, drawing the opposing pitcher's pitch count up, and that helps everybody else in the lineup. You look at Hicks this season, He's at 4.3 pitches per plate appearance. The only hitter on the Yankees that has a better pitches per plate appearance is Aaron Judge, and that's 4.33. So even though Hicks is not maybe getting the results right now, he's helping everybody else by drawing the count, getting those foul balls, and he's not hitting inside the park home runs, which he seems to do very frequently. And even Gardner has that leadership intangible you like. So I'm with Paul on this. I think when you look at Clint Frasier, he needs to be playing every day. The Yankees don't have that spot right now where he can play every day. They've got the good rhythm as well right now, so you don't really want to mess with that at this point. I liked having him up for the Washington series, but at the same time, if he's not going to play regularly at the big league level, he needs to go down to Scranton and just keep improving and build on the success he had before he got promoted.
And Austin, I know that you have something to add there.
I'd say, you can't keep him in the minors forever. Like, he's going to have to come up one way or another. Or, honestly, they should think about exploring a trade for him potentially. I mean, if they think, Hicks is going to be around for, a couple years, Gardner, what is he, 30, early 30s maybe? 32, 33? I don't know. You could possibly trade him for some infield depth maybe, or pitching. I mean, who knows? I mean, but I just don't think it's a good idea to keep him in the minors, forever.
What would your suggestion be? What do you think that should be done?
I'd say wait it out this year. See next year, see what's going on next year. If it's still this, shuffling from New York to Scranton, I say deal him and try and get some prospects or, some bullpen help or starting pitching help maybe. But wait till next year. This year, just see how it goes.
Yeah, understood. Makes sense. And speaking of still in the minors, I think that another surprise to Yankee fans everywhere, Yankee B-writers everywhere, was when the Yankees made that move to officially send Drury down to the minors. And really, it was just his rehab was up. He's still working on some things. As far as I saw, the other day he actually saw a neck specialist, which his injury is the neck tendon that is bothering him, which is causing his migraines, causing his blurry vision. So this was all part of the rehab. It wasn't because of a setback or anything, but he did see the specialist recently. It sounds like every day he's getting a little bit better. And my first question is, and I'll start with Ricky, do you feel that he can possibly spend, a significant amount of time in the minors this year?
I think there's a small chance, especially if Andujar continues to hit the way he's capable of hitting when you have all this versatility the Yankees have on the roster. And that's why I was kind of surprised during the rehab assignment that Drury didn't play a little bit of second base or played a little bit of outfield, because he's used to those positions. Yes, you want to keep him with the regular routine at third base, and I think that's more important. And he did have some good moments during the official rehab assignment offensively, but the Yankees value versatility a ton. I think they could use it with Drury, but at the same time, the Yankees are going to have him up at some point. They like him too much. It's the same thing with Hicks. Brian Cashman wanted him for a couple of years. I don't think he's going to be down there too long. At the very least, at least it gets some regular bats, and we'll get into Greg Bird later. Maybe that might be a good reason as well. But I could still see Drury being a good part of this year's team, just because you never know with injuries. And this team has had some good luck with injuries so far, but you never know when it might take its turn.
And you brought up a good point, and it's something we've touched on in the past. Why do you think that they've been exclusively putting him at third base? I know they see him as that's his best position, and I know they feel like when he's at his best when he's at third base, just because it's a natural position, it allows him to relax a little bit. But given the state of the roster, given the way that Andujar has been hitting, don't you think it would have been smart for them to have him playing multiple positions and have him fit into the team that way?
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, when first base was a big issue, that why wouldn't Brandon Drury get some routine at first base? He hasn't played there a lot in his major league career, but he did in his minor league career. So it makes sense to at least give him some at-bats there. But Walker played better as the weeks went on. Of course, Tyler Austin continues to crush the ball over the last week or so, so there's really no need at first base. You're not going to take reps away from Gleyber Torres at second base at the time. but you could always play him at second base in AAA if needed for a little bit. He's not exactly taking a spot from a top prospect at this point. It is surprising, but I think at this point with the vision issues, I think they just want to make Brandon Drury as comfortable as possible. Maybe as his AAA stint continues, they try different spots for him, but I think exclusively for the rehab stint, maybe it was just all about comfort and trying to get him back on track and gaining some confidence.
And Austin, how I don't know if you guys had a chance to see him when he was in Trenton or anything, but how concerning do you think that this issue that he's had with his vision? I mean, I know we've talked about it in the past, like obviously that's a big problem, but do you feel like this is something that's going to linger and affect him long term, since he's still trying to get through it?
I saw him in Trenton. I spoke to him in Trenton. He says he's been dealing with this since 2012, and since then he's been in the big leagues. He was a starter on a playoff team last year. I mean, he has the migraines, and he's seeing that neck specialist, and he says it's getting better and better. I could see this being a lingering issue where he can't see the ball clearly at 2020, but maybe he could see it good enough where he could still contribute on a big league roster, because you could see what he was capable of last year with Arizona, being the starting third baseman or infielder on a playoff team. That's doing all that with blurry vision is just insane to me. I mean, I have trouble hitting the baseball with 20/20 vision. He can play in the big leagues with blurry vision. But, while we're talking about like moving him to position, why not give him some reps at shortstop? I think he's played a little shortstop in his major league career. I mean, when you have Didi slumping like he has, why not test it out?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that when it comes to shortstop, pretty much Didi and Torres, so they're locked in no matter what kind of slumps they're going to be going through. Hopefully that's the one position that they're not going to have to worry about. But Paul, to bring you back in here, what do you want to see from Drury when he finally does come back? Like, what will make you feel like you're comfortable with him playing on an everyday basis?
Right. Well, it just comes down to him and what he's telling Stevie Donahue and Tim Lintic, the head and assistant athletic trainers. You want him healthy. You want him out there 100%. Excuse me. You want him to not have that blurred vision and to produce. And he's one of those players that has produced when he hasn't been healthy. And it's kind of freaky to getting down to the facts. And he's been playing injured for a while now, and he's been pretty darn good, but better than league average. And there's a definite spot on this roster for him. He's got to be healthy, because once he's healthy, I mean, look out! You don't know what he can potentially do. We talked about this last week with Miggy, and who has the higher upside, and it's the Yankees are in a very fortunate situation right now.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because my next question to you, you said that they're fortunate to have it, and honestly, they really are. The problem that they have is there's just way too much depth with this team, and they don't know where to actually fit guys on a daily basis. So my next question to you is, what should they do? Because at a certain point, I mean, you really can't just have major league players, major league starters really sit in the bench, or here in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. Do you think that eventually they're going to have to trade him or trade someone else just in order for them to clear up some of these backlogged problems that they have before somebody starts losing trade value?
100%. I don't think anybody's going to really lose trade value. Excuse me, unless there's an injury. I fully expect the Yankees to add another starting pitcher, and the ideal candidates we named last week: Michael Fulmer, possibly Chris Archer, Madison Bumgarner, and then, potentially another lefty out of the pen. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. I expect them to make some moves before the trade deadline, maybe even, before the All-Star break.
And Austin, did you want to jump back in here?
Yeah, referring to what Paul said, saying how we don't know what he's like when he's fully healthy. He said in 2011, the last time he did have 20/20 vision, he said that was the year he won MVP in whatever league he was playing. I think it was rookie ball, but nonetheless, it was an MVP year for him when he had the 20/20 vision.
Cool. Yeah, and obviously there's going to be a lot more potential with Drury if he could actually see the ball. So we all definitely hope that he can get that vision back and get back to the Yankees very soon. Another injury to talk about, some that will hurt the Yankee fans on the inside, a name that they've been hearing for over a year now. Estevan Florial ended up with a hand injury, and he's expected to require surgery on his hamate bone. He's going to be out until probably at least August. So, Paul, I'm going to start with you again. He's going to be out till August. How does this affect his long-term value?
Value, to me, doesn't really change. If this is a lingering issue, that's a whole nother problem. You saw it kind of with Mark Teixeira, where it was, you think it's going to be a couple months and it turns into be the whole year leading into 2 years. Then that's a little more of an issue. If they can fix the problem, I think his actual value is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go down. It's not going to go up. It's going to stay status quo. However, fitting into the Yankees' plans, this makes it much, much more challenging because he actually needs the time to develop. Whereas a Gleyber Torres, it was kind of like, you have him at a level and then all of a sudden, he's performing, you promote him because he's ready. Florial is a guy that's definitely going to have to spend some time in Tampa, spend some time in Trenton. I think spend some time in Scranton as well, with cutting on strikeouts, and he's a very raw player. So I think this really, really hurts because you just delay this whole process a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have a young player like that, all this time is valuable. I mean, you saw what happened with Gleyber. Now, obviously, he's 21 years old and in the big leagues, so I guess not too much harm there. But honestly, Gleyber could have been up last year if he never got hurt. So you can definitely see how that could delay things a bit. In terms of Florial, though, this is a young kid, a different style of player than Gleyber. So we built off long term. Now, Ricky, I'm curious, what do you think this means for him in the short term?
Well, short term, I think, to Paul's point, it definitely hurts the development he was on. He wasn't having the best season with Tampa. He was hitting about 246. He did have a 32-game on-base streak. So I like the fact that while the strikeouts are still up with him, he did have 21 walks, which is 6th in the Florida State League. So at the same time, while he's striking out a lot, he's also walking a lot. And you can sort of fix the strikeouts, but it's tough to really look at the patience at the plate. So that's at least an added bonus if you go off those numbers. He's getting caught stealing bases a lot. It's 5 for 9. It's not really strong either. So maybe when he gets the hamate issue worked out, that also plays a factor. I think it's not going to be too big of an issue, like Paul said, but short term, I think it hurts, especially if you're looking to make him a centerpiece in these kind of trade deals. We saw the Yankees kind of do this last year, even though they made the Sonny Gray deal with Dustin Fowler, had the injury at the time, and James Kaprielian. So maybe it doesn't hurt too much, but I think it does affect how the Yankees go about their trade deadline plans. But I think Florial, despite some of the numbers that may seem disappointing if you look at it from a stat perspective, there are other stats that suggest that at least he's finding his way on base, and that alone could help in getting those numbers back up to where people expect them to be.
Yeah, and you mentioned the trade deadline there, so that leads me right into my next question. Obviously, we all expect the Yankees to get a starting pitcher at some point. It's almost a given, almost. So how do you think, because we floated Florial around last year as a trade piece in getting somebody like a Madison Bumgarner or another top-of-the-line starter that could come over and really take this team to the next level. So given this injury, do you think that affects the type of value that the Yankees could get for him in a trade this year?
It depends on what pitcher you bring back. I think Bumgarner, maybe Florial has to play factor. We talked about how great he would be in San Francisco as their center field of the future. You could maybe throw Clint Frasier in that deal if you wanted to do that. Another name that came up this week would be Cole Hamels. I mean, the Yankees could eat some of that contract that Hamels has, at least for the rest of the season. It's a lot of money, but maybe if the Yankees make a deal for Hamels and take on most of the money, maybe the prospect value isn't as strong. So maybe that helps the Yankees there. It depends on the big name you're going after. You're going after Fulmer and Bumgarner, and these big names, Florial maybe has to be in that deal. But if you go for like a second, third tier name, and Hamels is pretty close to a second tier because he's not having a great season with Texas, so his value could drop, then maybe Florial isn't exactly a deal breaker to getting a deal for a starting pitcher done.
Yeah, I would say that Hamels wouldn't take as much to get as maybe a Madison Bumgarner or Michael Fulmer. If they're going to trade Florial, I would like it to be somebody like Fulmer, who they're going to be able to control for multiple years and be somebody who could be a top of the line starter. So if that does happen, I think that's the only type of trade that you can put him in. Hamels is, to be honest with you, I'm skeptical that he would even really do much more than somebody like Sonny Gray is doing now. So that was a good name drop there because that's somebody that we haven't really been keeping an eye on. But is there anything that you want to add to that, Austin?
Not really. You guys really covered all of it. Hamels. You're not going to get Philadelphia Phillies Cole Hamels back. You're going to get seasoned veteran Cole Hamels back, which, like you said, can't see him doing more than a Sonny Gray would, or even like a CC Sabathia. I just don't see it in him. Maybe 5 years ago, but not in 2018.
Well, what about Florial? Do you think that this injury has any sort of impact on him, whether it's long-term, short-term, and trade value?
Short-term, I mean, I have a hard time seeing him come back to play this year, because if they're going to have him be back around August, and what is it, like a 2-month injury? We're late in May, if he's going to be back late August, I'd say just take it the safe route. Just sit him the rest of the year. If he's able to come back, great. If not, then, no worries. I think the big question is next year. How is he going to respond from the hand injury? Is he going to be limited in what he does? Is he going to have that linger in the back of his mind? All that kind of stuff after players get hurt. So next year would be a big question for him.
Yeah, and to finish off this topic, Paul, what do you think when he comes back we need to see from him?
Just his normal old self. He's going to need to steal bases. He's going to need to hit. And, I'd like to see, obviously him cut down on the strikeouts and, it's just business as usual.
Okay, and so we're going to take just a second time out here just to remind everybody that for all the latest and the best New York Yankees farm system coverage, don't forget to check out our website, www.pinstripeprospects.com. We have player profiles, scouting reports, exclusive interviews, and a lot more from every single Yankees minor league affiliate. We are your number one source for Yankees prospect and organizational news. And also don't forget that we are on social media. So if you're looking to follow our information on the go, we'll be there for you. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media handles. On Facebook, we're at Pinstripe Prospects. On Twitter, we're at Pinstripe Pros. And on Instagram, we're also at Pinstripe Pros. And again, we are the number one source for the Yankees prospect information. So check us out, like us, and go to the website. So moving along to our next topic here, Greg Bird has been slowly moving his way back. He played a couple of games in Florida, and then he got moved up to the Thunder. He's starting to get his timing back, guys, and he's a name that I think for once again we expected to step right into this lineup and honestly hit fourth and crush home runs and be the Greg Bird we saw in the playoffs. So, Austin, I'm going to start with you here. He's been in Tampa. He just hit his first home run the other night. What have you seen from him in Trenton?
Well, first of all, let me say that home run he hit. I've gone to Trenton Thunder games a lot as a kid. I've never seen someone hit the ball so far. That might have went into the Delaware River, which I'd say is about 100 or so feet down the right field line, the right field fence, like down the line right field. That's 330. He might have hit that thing 450. He knew it was gone. Everybody knew that ball was gone. But talking to him and talking to the manager Jay Bell, they're more or less concerned about how he's hitting the ball rather than the results. The first two games he was 0 for. Second game he got a hit, and then fourth game he hit the home run. So he's been improving his timing on the swings. He says the ankle's doing great, but he hit some balls, warning track, but if it wasn't for the, some nights the wind was really whipping in. If it wasn't for that, they might have been home runs as well. But he's made a lot of solid contact there, a lot of movement, from first to third multiple times. So what I've seen, he looks good to me. But I'm not the Yankees, I'm not Brian Cashman, so we're just gonna have to wait and see how he does up in Scranton.
And you said you got a chance to talk to Jay Bell about the Bird a couple of times here. So has he given a timetable on what he expects out of Bird and how long he's going to be with Trenton?
Bird's gone. Bird and McKinney are both gone from Trenton. They're in Scranton right now. They were there for the whole week. They did not play the Wednesday game, which is at 10:30. They didn't play today's game, which is at 1. They played all the night games. And the first two games, they were shaky. They were both 0 for with 2 walks from Billy McKinney. And then after that Wednesday game, that 10:30 game that they had scheduled rest, that's when they both turned it up, got multiple hits, extra base hits, home runs, you name it. They looked better in the second half of their rehab stint in Trenton rather than the first. And I think that's just about getting your timing back, getting back into the flow of things. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And I can tell you that with McKinney and Greg Bird coming to Scranton, it's going to be some offense that they definitely need. So hopefully we can get a little bit more of an update there from Bobby Mitchell sometime this week. And but keeping on the Bird track, he's going to be coming up soon. It's another name that needs to be added onto this roster that, what move do you make? So, Paul, I'm going to toss over to you. First of all, what do you expect the roster move to be? Because he's really knocking on the door, probably the closest to coming back of most of them.
It's a very good question. I would probably say that as much as I like what they're doing with the pitching staff, the move's probably A.J. Cole. He's not used too much. He's just used in extreme situations. You're going to be getting Adam Warren back. You're going to be getting your normal guys. Tommy Kahnle was probably going to come back on next week on Monday or this week as you're hearing this. So I mean, the roster move, it's probably going to be a pitcher, just because I don't think you're going to see the Yankees eat Neil Walker's contract. I just don't. And Tyler Austin has deserved a extended stay in the big leagues. He's performing well, so much so that I would honestly keep Bird and Trenton just like they're doing with Drury, to be completely honest. I think Bird needs to earn his way back. I think he needs to prove himself again, and it shouldn't be a given.
So what do you want to see from Bird then that would say, okay, he's got to come up?
Well, obviously defensively, he's got to perform adequately, which he's fully capable of. Mainly it's health. As long as he can be really healthy, I think he's going to perform. I don't think he's really been healthy this whole time. You can't have a regression at first base. We saw what happened when we have a below average hitting first baseman and what it does to the lineup. And to be honest, Walker's been clutch, Austin's been clutch, and to answer your question, long story short, I won't keep rambling on. He needs to hit more than 230, and he needs to hit for power. That's what Greg Bird is, and he needs to perform like he's capable of performing. And if he's not healthy, he needs to be either on the DL or in the minor leagues. He cannot be, taking one of the 25-man roster spots when Tyler Austin, deserves it.
And Austin, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, he was in trend. While a lot of his hits were deep fly balls, whether they were home runs or outs, he drew a ton of walks. I think in 2 games he had about 5 walks. He scored 4 runs. So I mean, I don't know if that's a credit to him or the Trends lineup getting them home, but he was contributing on base. He was getting runs on the board. And last time I checked, that's what you need to win baseball games.
And Ricky, how would you handle this situation?
It's a weird situation. Brandon Drury had a similar situation, and that's where when you're a player and you have options, that's not exactly your best friend. Bird still has a few options, so the Yankees, if they want to keep him in AAA, could do that. Tyler Austin only has 1 option left, so I don't know if the Yankees want to make that a risk in sending and wasting that last option on Austin, because I don't think want to lose option chances when you have them. Austin, like Paul says, doing a great job, especially at first base, hitting against righties, 529 slugging those situations. Here's a devil's advocate I would have, and it would be, I don't want to waste at-bats when Greg Bird is healthy. So are you wasting AAA at-bats when Greg Bird is finally healthy and then he gets hurt again? Because I think they need him for down the road. They don't need him right now, because he arguably is one of the X factors on this team. Saw in the postseason last year what kind of impact he can have. With the Yankees in a position where the Yankees and the Red Sox are separating themselves, they can take their time with Greg Bird. It's just, I wouldn't want to waste his good at-bats in AAA and then have him come up and then get hurt again. But that's the risk, because Bird just, really, he's getting to that territory where anything you get from him is a bonus, not something that's guaranteed.
Yeah, and honestly, my feeling on the subject is I think it would very much benefit them to maybe send A.J. Cole down to the minors and make that move like Paul mentioned, and bring Bird up, keep Austin there, and slowly work his way back into Major League action. Let them do the platoon between him and Austin, on a daily basis, and try to just play matchups. And let Bird get his feet wet, and then that way you're keeping him fresh for the rest of the season. There's less chance of injury. I mean, we know what his back can be when he's healthy. So honestly, they've been rolling with 3 bench players up to this point, just Torreyes, Walker, and Romine. And then they've had pitchers. They called up Clint Frasier. That was the first time that they had 4, I think. So when Kahnle comes back and Warren comes back, that's going to help them a lot in the bullpen. So you're really not going to need that pitcher. And plus, A.J. Cole has barely pitched. So it's not like they've really needed him up to this point. So I think that would make the most sense for the Yankees. You'll have that great bat off the bench regardless of who's not starting in terms of Austin or Bird. And then when it comes playoff time, Bird should be at full strength and hopefully on a roll and, playing every day and do what he did last year. I think that that's honestly the best way to go about it, and just see what happens. But again, great problem to have, and it's still going to be tons of fun to watch all those home runs getting hit, regardless of who's at first base. But another name we mentioned a couple times tonight was Tommy Kahnle. We're expecting him to join the Yankees soon, most likely as of Sunday of this recording, probably Monday or somewhere else during the week here. So I know that he's been throwing in Tampa, as is Adam Warren, but Adam Warren just started throwing off a flat ground. So he's going to be a little bit of a ways away. And we kind of talked about it a little bit already. Paul, I'm going to start with you on this one. How is Kahnle's presence going to change the dynamic of the bullpen?
Well, I think it helps in several ways. Number one, I think you have obviously another all-star potential option to go to. When Tommy Kahnle's healthy, he's really, really good. And I think that takes pressure off Dylan Betances, who I think is going to begin to break out. I don't think you're going to see him in that second inning anymore, and that's where 6 of his earned runs have come in those 2 innings of when he's pitching in the second inning. So I think some of the stats are he's having a better season than people realize. So I think that just really realigns the bullpen, takes pressure off David Robertson too. David hasn't performed up to what he would have hoped for. So he's been struggling a little bit. So I just think these guys are going to feed off each other. I think Betances is going to return to form. I think Kahnle is going to return to form, and I think that's really going to help David Robertson. So I think the back end of the bullpen is really going to get to what we thought they were entering the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And just his presence, I mean, in a lot of these games that the Yankees have played and won, they've been winning them in close games. So Betances and Robertson and Chapman really have been stretched about as far as they can be stretched. So it's definitely going to be a breath of fresh air for everybody when Kahnle comes back to be able to lengthen that bullpen. And so before he went on the DL, he was having some issues with his velocity and command of the strike zone. So Ricky, what I want to know from you is, what are you going to be looking for when he takes the mound for the first time again in the big leagues?
Well, command is going to be extremely important. I mean, that's if you can throw strike one, I think that's going to help Kahnle feel more confident on the mound. But this is, I think, a rare opportunity where the Yankees, you don't normally get a bullpen reset in May. And with basically the week off that the Yankees had with all the rain in Washington and getting the 8 innings from Sonny Gray on Sunday, CC didn't go deep in the game on Friday, but that's really the only game they had to use the bullpen a ton. Severino gave him about 6 innings on Saturday. So with the Yankees being able to sort of give Chad Green and Dellin Betances and Robertson Chapman at least a few days, and that's going to definitely help the bullpen. And that's going to also allow them to ease Tommy Kahnle back in, because now they can maybe use less of the whole 2-inning thing. Kahnle can maybe ease back into that because that's where he's most valuable. Like Paul talked about a few weeks ago, Robertson's not used to 2 innings. Betances isn't used to 2 innings. Kahnle is. And I think that's more valuable to this team, where him and Green are the 2-inning guys, and Robertson and Betances slide into their normal roles again, and that gets them producing at the level that everybody knows they're capable of producing.
Yeah, and that's honestly an excellent point, because that the ability for them to have those defined roles and know that they can possibly be coming in for a second inning or not, it really does play in the mindset of these guys. So that's a really good point there. Austin, do you have anything else to add?
Everybody's pretty much covered it. As we've seen from Betances and Robertson, they can't go more than 1 inning. And Kahnle can. And, last year, the strength of the Yankees was the bullpen. With Kahnle, with Robertson, Betances, Chapman, they can get back to their form from last year with all this offense. And I can't say anyone beat the Yankees this year.
Yeah, they're certainly so deep in so many areas. So definitely the Kahnle addition is going to be really helpful to the entire team overall. But yeah, so we all had the opportunity to just highlight one player from the Yankees organization that has been impressing so far this season. So Ricky, I'm going to start with you. Which player did you pick?
Well, when we talk about the Yankee prospects, usually it's the big names that get the most attention. Some players get overlooked pretty easily just because they're not in those high leverage roles and they're not in those big time situations. And one pitcher that gets overlooked is a guy by the name of Matt Wavinis. He's a right-handed reliever in Tampa. He's 24 years old, was undrafted out of Eastern Illinois, signed in October 2016 to a minor league contract. And ever since he's come into the Yankee organization, when you're an undrafted player or you're a late-round pick, you have to produce right away. That's how you stay with the organization. Here's some numbers I think people will be really impressed by. 30 career games over the last 2 seasons. Has a 0.64 ERA, 17 for 17 in saves, a strikeout to walk ratio of 67-5. In 11 outings this season, opponents are hitting .79 between Charleston and he just got promoted to Tampa. Tampa's had a doubleheader rained out, so they haven't played as many games, so Wevinus hasn't gotten a chance to come into those outings. 21 strikeouts to 1 walk. This guy just throws strikes, and he throws strikes consistently. If you want to move up in this system as a reliever, that's something you got to do. So while Wevinus won't be on your top prospect list, heck, he might not even be on a lot of people's radars, but if he keeps pitching like this, he's going to make a lot of attention. So props to him for taking advantage of maybe not having that top draft pick, but still finding a way to put up the consistent numbers that the Tampa Yankees need down in the Florida State League.
Yeah, that strikeout to walk ratio is just outstanding. I mean, you're right. When you are an undrafted player and you're in the Yankees organization trying to move up, that's the way to do it. Just throw strikes. And honestly, that's going to set him apart in the minors. So that's a really, really great pick. Austin, who did you get a chance to pick?
I chose Trenton Thunder shortstop Abiato Avellino. He is a 23-year-old shortstop. They signed him in 2011 as an international free agent from the Dominican Republic, and he has just been tearing up Double-A this year. He's batting .373 with a .440 on-base percentage, .537 slugging. He started the year in Scranton, but due to organizational depth, somebody had to move down. Unfortunately, it was him. But, another big week for him this year. He was 7 for 22, batting .318, 1 home run, 1 double, 5 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, 3 walks. I cannot see him being in Trenton for this long. He's just a phenomenal player. And I also want to give a shout out to Eric Swanson, who was just putting up video game numbers this year in Trenton, and he got promoted to Scranton Wilkes-Barre today, actually. But he had a .44 ERA. He was just lights out for the Thunder so far this year. So it's going to be exciting to see how he is in Scranton, and hopefully Avellino gets promoted up to AAA sometime soon.
Yeah, Avellino was somebody that I really enjoyed watching grind out at bats here in Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and that is, I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's done nothing but what he's supposed to do, and there's just really no place for him at this point. So I truly hope that he gets an opportunity, whether it's with the Yankees or somewhere else. But I'm also glad that you mentioned Swanson because that was when I saw that promotion. That is somebody that I'm really excited to see. So, definitely he's been dominating every level here so far. So I can't wait to see him up close and see what he's got. Paul, so who did you get to highlight for us?
Steven Sensley. He was the 12th round pick of last year's draft. Over the past 10 games, he's batting .371 with a home run and 3 RBIs. This kid is really impressive. I got a chance to see him in Pulaski last year, and the power numbers are there. He has 19 career home runs, 6 home runs this year with the Charleston River Dogs, and he's slashing .286, .365, and .514, which gives him an OPS of .879. Very, very impressive for this young kid. I see him going to Tampa in a really short term, especially with Florio coming out. I expect to see them, within this month, and we're, it's the 20th right now as we're recording this. So I expect that call up soon.
Yeah, another great player. So these are just some of the names that you don't get to hear often because of all the superstar prospects that the Yankees have in their organization. And I actually chose one myself. Here in Scranton Wilkes-Barre, he's a guy who's been pretty much dominating out of their bullpen right from day one, and that's Cody Carroll. Cody Carroll was in the Arizona Fall League, and he just absolutely dominated there. He's 25 years old, right-handed pitcher, and he's been closing out games here in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. He currently has a 2-0 record. He is pitching to a 2.55 ERA, and he's got 3 saves on the year. 17 innings pitched. He definitely goes multiple innings, and he's had more than a strikeout per inning. His slider is just absolutely nasty. He attacks the zone, really live fastball, and he's currently holding hitters to a 203 average. So this is a guy that, honestly, if he doesn't get his shot in the majors this year, I'm going to be very disappointed, because he has the arm and the stuff to just go out there and be an extremely productive major league player. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. I think he's going to be part of that shuttle soon, and hopefully we'll expect good things out of Cody Carroll in the future. But to wrap up our podcast this evening, I want to toss this over to Ricky, because if you're not familiar, we are all over the June amateur draft when it comes to the Yankees and who they're drafting, and we're constantly doing work to scout out players that will be in the draft and possibilities that we think that the Yankees are going to choose in the draft. Ricky has been one of the people for Pinstriped Prospects who's been doing all of this pre-draft coverage. So I want to toss this to him, because he's going to highlight a few names for everybody to watch out for in the upcoming draft as potential Yankee targets. So Ricky, take it away.
Well, we are about 2 weeks away from the MLB first year player draft. It takes place June 4th to June 6th. Yankees have the 23rd pick in the first round. Not a high pick. This is only the fourth time they've had the 23rd pick in their history. Last time was Phil Hughes back in 2004. So if the Yankees can get a player similar to Phil Hughes, I think they would take it, despite Hughes having the injury issues he's had over the last few seasons. Yankees don't have a big bonus pool, and that's why you've seen them linked to a lot of high school players, a lot of prep school players. And I think that's a smart thing, because if the Yankees are, with this strong farm system that they have, you can take time to develop your first-round pick, while other teams maybe fast-track their first-round pick, depending on who they take. You probably won't see the Yankees, I think, pick for need. They'll maybe just pick best player on the board. And one name they've been really linked to is Tristan Casas, who's been, if you look at Baseball America and their mock draft, the last two mock drafts they've had, Casas has been the pick. He's hit .393 with 6 homers this season for American Heritage High School in Florida, 27 walks and 9 strikeouts, so good plate discipline, about a .901 slugging, 6'4", 238-pound left-hander. So the Yankees love these big, tall corner infield guys. We've seen them fix Aaron Judge's swing. Maybe they could work with Casas' swing a little bit, because that power is definitely there. They don't draft corner infielders a lot. I think the last one they did was Eric Jagielo, which was a few years ago. So maybe you don't see corner infield as a big spot for the Yankees, but if Casas can slip to 23, that's a spot where maybe you could see the Yankees go. One college player I like is Jeremy Ironman, who's a shortstop out of Missouri State, 6'1", 205-pound right-handed hitter. He did hit 23 home runs in his sophomore season last year, which Missouri Valley is not a strong conference like the SEC, ACC, etc. Still some pretty good numbers there. The power hasn't been there this season, but the extra base hit numbers have. He's hit 295 with a 385 on base, 9 homers, 44 RBIs. Does have 16 doubles and 20 stolen bases. Another thing I liked about him, he's got good baseball background, and that's always a plus. His dad was drafted by the Red Sox back in 1991. His brother was drafted by the Rays in the 3rd round back in 2011. So he's gone through the draft process, at least his dad has, and his brother has, so you maybe get some advice on that as well. He's one of those guys projected in a lot of mock drafts as late first-round picks. So while you're looking at Fangraphs and Baseball America and all the mock drafts that are out there, you'll probably see a lot of high school prep players linked to the Yankees. We'll try to profile a lot of those players for you over the next couple weeks leading up to the draft.
Yeah, and that is all excellent information. I think that when it comes to the MLB draft, there's a lot of players with a ton of talent that the fans really aren't aware of. So it's been really great work by everybody with Pinstriped Prospects who's been working on this. And there is a ton of coverage to come for that. So be on the lookout. We're going to have profiles and scouting reports for everybody, just to get to know these picks as they come in and possible targets for the Yankees in the draft. So, Ricky, that's an excellent, excellent job. And I really liked the part where you pointed out that they're probably going to be focusing on younger players because of how the system is drafted. And with the way that they did it in the past with guys like James Kaprelian and Jacob Lindgren are a couple that come to my mind, where they were choosing people who they felt were going to move up the ranks really fast. Maybe not so much the most talented guys on the board, but guys who are just going to move fast. So do you think that maybe where those guys ended up in their careers had a lot to do with the switch as well?
That could also be a case, but it's something we've talked about over the last few weeks, where there's just such a logjam with a lot of these positions in the upper tiers of the system, where it makes sense to take a player that has the raw tools, but you can still define those roles. I mean, you look back at that draft from 5 years ago, Aaron Judge clicked, and Eric Jagiello's off another organization, Ian Clarkin's off another organization. It's really a big toss-up when it comes to the draft. You just take a chance on which player you like the most, and Casas has the tools that everybody seems to like. There's a lot of high school pitching that could be available toward the bottom of the first round. Maybe the Yankees take a shot there, even though they took Clark Schmidt and Matt Sauer last year. So maybe takes them away from the pitching side of things, and they focus more on position players as Schmidt tries to recover and hopefully gets in some games this season. So I think position player, if there is a need, maybe you go that route. I mean, there's one player out there, a Georgia high school catcher, Anthony Siegler, who is a switch hitter at catcher. And you rarely get those kind of players where you can have a switch hitting catcher that you can develop. And the Yankees really could use the catching depth in the organization after Sanchez and Higashioka and a couple other guys. They don't really have that elite catching depth. Maybe Siegler comes in and maybe steps up in that regard. There's Noah Naylor, who's Josh Naylor's brother, who can play a little catcher as well. Maybe that's a need. So I think it also depends with that draft bonus pool. Maybe the Yankees want to save it for later in the draft, and it's easier to maybe sign a high school player or even a college player. But I don't really see them taking that big a chance on a guy that might not sign with the small pool that they have.
Yeah, and that's all great stuff. All definitely things to watch out for when it comes to the draft, and keep doing what you're doing, Ricky. You're doing a great job for us here. But unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for the 55th edition of the Pinstripe Prospects podcast, and that is presented by Velocity Wings Restaurant and Bar. Don't forget to check out our website. It's www.pinstripeprospects.com for all of the latest news on the Yankees Farm System. Follow us on all of our social media pages for on-the-go updates. On Facebook, our page is Pinstripe Prospects, and on Twitter and Instagram, we are at Pinstripe Pros. You could also now check us out on YouTube and catch up with the many videos of the Yankees top prospects that we have. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe to the Pinstripe Prospects podcast on SoundCloud. We also ask that if you feel like you're doing a good job, and I think I speak for all of us when I say that I'm very happy with how everybody's performing here. We'd like to get you to give us that 5-star rating on the Apple Store and the Google Play app. Every 5-star rating goes a long way for us. And if you have any questions or suggestions for content on the podcast, feel free to reach out to us. You could reach out to our managing partner and producer of this podcast, Robert Pinsner, at rob@pinstripeprospects.com. So from all of us here at Pinstripe Prospects, Ricky Keeler, Paul Pagnato III, and Austin Petillo, my name is Tommy Romanelli, and like a third strike, we're out.